Hi, I'm Lorne Epstein with the Lorne Epstein Show, and today we are live or semi-live from Paris at the Paris Convention Center, and we are at the Unleash conference. This is the largest of the three conferences that Unleash has, with probably over 5,000 people in attendance. And with me today, on my right, is Marc Coleman. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Welcome you.
So
Great to have you back, Lorne.
Yeah, I mean, I always love coming, and the reason I love coming is because the whole theme of Unleash is really about making work a better place. So in a lot of the conferences, I don't want to characterize them, but specifically about Unleash, is that you've decided that people are important. People are a part of the equation. They're an important part of the equation, and that comes through in everything you guys do.
Yes, and I think this is our flagship event, so it's evolved over 8 years now. So we have our main stage, which we showcase that. We talked about I think 4 different areas. We've got a bit of charity showcased on stage, and as you know, we've always showcased diversity and inclusion. I think we got caught out by Lexi Martin and Naomi Bloom back in the old days. In the old days, and that was only 8 years ago, we had about 20% women on stage. It was a reflection of the industry back then. This show has about 50% parity, men to women.
Wow,
Really,
that's great.
It's amazing, right? So we
That's
actually
fantastic.
don't have to have the women in tech.
Right? Yeah.
We don't have to have that as a stream this year, or a top or as side event.
We have Christine Cousteau.
Yes.
Yeah, so Christine Cousteau is the granddaughter of Jacques Cousteau, for
Yep.
those of you who used to watch TV.
Yeah. So, we have people like her, Bob Geldof. They're taking
Bob
the main
Geldof.
stage, right? So that's
Sir
for
Bob Geldof.
anyone who's worked in events. Of course, he's Irish, so I love him for that. But he organised the biggest event in the world in what was it, 3 weeks?
1985.
3 weeks.
Three weeks.
3 weeks. Kind of terrorized and blackmailed all these people onto stage. The
I wanna
biggest
hear
rock
that.
stars in the world, yeah. And so that's the main stage. Of course, we have a lot on human resources, leadership. There's all of that being showcased on the main stage. But then you have 18 other stages, which cover everything from well-being to HRIS, payroll, performance, learning, everything you can really think of. So yeah, it's kind of, and it's an evolution of 8 years. The first event didn't look or have that shape. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of depth there, and it's there because it's a team event. So we're trying to look after everyone inside the HR function, and what they're shopping for right now is obviously on the expo floor, but you should be able to find the content in the breakouts as well.
Yeah, I remember the first time we met was in San Francisco in 2017,
Right.
at that conference.
Yeah.
And then, and that's
I
just
love
2 years.
that show. That's still one of my favorites.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you've grown so much since then.
Yes. Yeah. I guess, we also had a lot of change inside our business. So the company that we showcase on stage, it's not always the company that's behind the scenes and stuff like that. So we've had our own challenges in terms of trying to transform as a company. I was telling you earlier, we got to about 80 people, and not one person in our whole company had ever worked in this type of business, including me.
That's funny.
So we've learned a lot about, when I used to hear HR managers or leaders talking about how painful transformation is and how it fails all the time, now I know.
Yeah.
Now I understand what reorganization means. So it's been.
So we were talking earlier, and one of the things that I hear, I was at the EREDC conference this past week.
Cool.
And
I
on
like
Wednesday,
those guys.
Yeah, it was great. Jerry Crispin.
Yeah.
Tom Raphael. Anyway, those guys. So one of the women, I did a workshop on bias, and one of the women came to me, and she really felt like it's so hard for her to take this good stuff and bring it back to the workplace, where it just kind of stops. And I know, as being a TA leader, you'd hear these great ideas, like clearly stuff that's working for people, and then you bring it back, and there's just resistance.
Yes.
And well, what do we do? Like, how can we tell people to smooth that out, because we're doing all this good work, but then it gets stopped, it doesn't get implemented, or it gets pushed back, or it gets Frankenstein, where someone brings back something good and it turns into something really.
Well, so that's the problem, right? That's what you've got to be careful of with events like this. Yeah, because you can see something cool on stage from a company like Google or Facebook. They have the book Spondoolies, and quite often different type of talent to be able to have, do those kind of projects. Not everyone has those kind of budgets. But I think what I saw, especially in Europe, would be fair to the Germans, especially because they love benchmarking, is that you can benchmark your business into oblivion, right? So you see an idea on stage, and you've got 2,000 or however hundreds of people watching it, and they all go back to the office to try and do the same thing, right? It's the same problem with LinkedIn. If everyone on there if everyone's doing the sourcing and hiring from the same platform, what happens? It's the same thing that happened to Monster before LinkedIn came along.
Yeah.
It's saturation. You
Yeah.
can't do it. It doesn't work anymore. So I think you have to be very careful with events. I like that idea, and we pitched that idea. Of course, this is our business. The idea that you can come to an event and you can sit in a session. It can be a sentence that can change somebody's life. It can be some insight. I think Lexi Martin had one of the coolest ones coming to this event. She's running a panel, and I think it's how do you save 10 million euros or using analytics, people insights, and she's doing it through the Lego company, Celigen. I can't remember the third company, but you come to an event and it's how do you save 10 million from your bottom line. If you go back to the office and your CEO is not listening to that, then I'd resign personally, because the value proposition, that's exactly what we're looking for from HR right now. So, and I think if you meet that resistance when you go back, it is very difficult. There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
So I certainly can't give you a silver bullet to that.
One of the things that I was thinking about was that my mother-in-law, she ran a magazine in the States, and her general philosophy on life was to take really small steps. Never any big grand moves, just tiny little steps.
Yes.
And I think, breaking some of these things down, and this may be something that can be discussed, is like, well, how now that you took this thing, how can you break this big thing into really, really small bites that you can test? When I was interviewing Denise Dressler from Avature just this past week, and she's doing that. So she's basically, putting agile into talent acquisition.
Right.
I'm like, well, how did you do that? She said, well, we thought, okay, we're going to try something, and what is the smallest number of people that we can test something on?
Yeah.
And the number is 1. So they literally tested something with one person.
Yes.
And one person, when you think about that, that's not a big deal.
No.
But from the one is where they then get a little bit of traction, and making those small moves, I think, is what has her be successful. And they've done some really cool things around Agile.
Mm-hmm. And I see that work every time. You're better off having a pilot group and seeing if it works on them than trying to force something on everyone. And I think it's the same thing as to your point of, going back to the office and taking intelligent action. How do we make that happen? But that kind of fits with the HR, one of the biggest HR problems that's out there, which is HR looking for solutions to problems that don't exist.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We don't want to promote more of that. We don't want to force that. Or the idea of suddenly have an engagement strategy that was built by HR and then forcing it on everyone in the company.
Right.
It's like the appraisals once a year, and so these things don't work like that anymore. Right. So you need an agile, what Avature is saying to you. You need that agile strategy that goes from strategy all the ways around to engagement. And there's probably 9 steps to all of that. Well, I think the idea of just going back with an idea, you've got to go back and listen to your business.
Yeah.
Does your business need this right now? I think that's where the conference, the face-to-face, you can never beat that over what you read.
That'd be good conference prep. Before you come to a conference, like in the weeks and months leading up, ask your business, say, hey, I'm going to this conference. What do we need?
Absolutely.
It's like when, you go to the supermarket, right? You don't just go and get stuff. You ask family, what do we need to eat? And then you go and get it.
Yeah.
And it might help with people getting focused on how they can implement it, plus teeing people up and creating expectations of what's going to come back.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, we need a solution for this. Let's start talking about it now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go see what's there, shop for that, and bring those ideas back, and then we'll start social. Instead of coming back and being like, oh my God, what I saw was da da da, and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? It's like too quick and too much.
Yeah, exactly. We get that as that's the biggest complaint we have from the show. It's the worst show you can come to if you're not organized, if you're not prepared. So if you put no preparation into where you belong. Sure. There's the customer journey there, where you can go from if you're you're doing something like digital transformation of the human resource department, then that's built into this.
Yeah.
But if you're not organized and studied, like you do when you go horse racing, you study the form, right? If you haven't done that, you're going to be betting on their names, right? And it's going to be more organized chaos. So I think with this, if you are doing something like that coming to the event, then and especially if you're coming as a team,
Right.
Because it's the now. What do we need? So we've just implemented core HR. Okay, we don't need to go to this event specifically for that. Or, like I said, if you're doing digital transformation or just going on that journey, versus all the guys that have finished that journey, where do they belong? So if you don't study that, you're not going to have a good experience.
That's a really good point. I mean, I've never really thought of, like, when I go to a TA conference, what Jip was going to tell you, I was like, well, what do I need to bring back? Yeah. What is my team actually? I mean, I think I had it somewhere in my head, but I would never write it out, plan it, and go like, how are we going to do this? Yeah. And what are the small steps? Look for the small steps. Look for the small things that'll get me to the big things.
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen Jerome from Smart Recruiters. Years ago, all the way back to 2011.
I got my Smart Recruiter socks on.
There you go.
Plug for Smart Recruiters.
By the way, this is not advertising.
So a big shout out to our sponsors. By the way, if you're watching, like us, share us, comment. But Smart Recruiters, big thumbs up to them.
There you go.
Talent Board, big thumbs up to them. Brazen's also one of our sponsors, and thanks to Unleash. So props to them.
Happy days. But I saw Jerome at the first event one year, and I was just shocked by him as an operator. How he could do some social media, take a phone call, get on stage and do a keynote, to walking off and then doing being a judge for a startup thing, to seeing him network and network in a way that you would belong inside the right conversations. So would not waste your time with the wrong conversations, if that's fair to say. And you just see people operate like that. They come to you only have a day and a half at these days, right? So you've got to make sure you're organized, or you suffer the chance that you might not have a good event. So,
that is true. That is really true. And so just to kind of wrap up on the diversity and inclusion piece, so we usually get, I think, maybe a third or a fourth or half women. We get a chunk of women that we do interviews with. For some reason, at this event, I have no women. Except,
that's on you. I told you now.
Totally. I know. When we asked, I asked, we put it out to about 50 people.
Right.
And the only ones that ended up actually accepting were men, except standing in the wings is China Gorman, which, thank goodness, she's available. So we're going to talk to China. Good. But if there are any women who you think might want to, meet on the show.
We have lots. And the other thing which I've worked on this year is people with disabilities. So we have a few. I've invited a few customers along with different disabilities to help us on different aspects of the show, especially people in HR with disabilities. So
cool. Well, thanks so much, and thank you so much for watching. And how can folks reach you if they want to or follow you? Or...
So I'm on LinkedIn, of course. I'm at Unleash Marc on Twitter.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, stand by. We're going to have the next guest in a second.